open to the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting to be held at the Council Chamber Guildhall tonight, Monday the 12th of December 2022 at 6:30 p.m. to transact the business as set out on the agenda below. Number one, the Chair's welcome. In this Chair's welcome, I just had a couple of things I wanted to actually say. The most important thing was I wanted to say thank you to the responsible financial officer for the amount of work and effort that she's put in preparing these budgets and assisting us with information on taking this draft budget forward. So that was the first item I was going to say. No apologies.
On his way.
I did try to wait for you, but I was overruled. So, and the second item I was going to say was, don't forget that we're discussing the budget for next year. This is the draft budget for 2023-24. So we don't really want to be sort of looking at or querying items that were in the budget this year or any issues like that. Okay. Thank you very much. Item number 2, apologies for absence. I haven't had any. Have you had any?
No apologies have been received.
Oh, super, thank you. That's very good. That's excellent. And item number 3 is the declaration of disclosable pecuniary interests and other significant interests. Did anybody have any interest to be registered at all? No, that's none. Thank you very much. That's okay. And item number 4 is the public right to speak, and we have a 15-minute session set aside at this stage of the meeting to enable members of the public to speak. Do we have any speakers? Oh, right, oh, super. Oh, Christina, please take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Initially, I asked to speak about the protocol for public participation, paragraph 4F, which states, the chairman shall remind electors wishing to record, film or report on the meeting to observe STC data protection, GDPR and safeguarding guidelines. I would like to point out that the Council has no jurisdiction in these matters over members of the public. All residents have the legal right to film, share videos and report on Council meetings. We do not have to request permission or even advise the Council of our intentions. The only limitation is that we must not disrupt the meeting by providing a spoken commentary. The draft paragraph is inappropriate, unenforceable and not within NAP guidance. On seeing tonight's agenda, I noted several items which I won't expand on but would like to flag for your consideration. 1. The residual STC SO5Js and STBF SO5Cs are missing again, and there is no indication of when they will be presented for review. This is in breach of standing orders. Secondly, the outsourcing proposals for HR provision are not comparing like with like. Therefore, meaningful pricing comparisons cannot be made. Further, one proposal speaks of outsourcing HR to ensure HR employment documentation is brought up to date, which suggests the previous supplier had failed in that regard. Given that NALC provides a full set of HR templates covering statutory requirements as well as various admin policies and procedures, why are these not being considered as an option, especially as they are tailored for local government and kept up to date by NALC? 3. The invitation to tender omits the Council website from the specification, yet this is a critical need for the Council and the public. Further, the specification is vague and open to interpretation. Lack of clarity at this stage in the procurement process can make the Council vulnerable and may cause significant problems down the line. 4. The proposed confidential item fails, yet again, to specify the paragraph of Schedule 12A, Part 1, that councillors are asked to consider before voting to exclude the public. 5. The STBF draft budgets would benefit from zero-based budgeting rather than incremental adjustments to ensure all expenditure is properly justified and to support the budget towards meeting the fund's objectives as described in its statement of purpose. Questionable entries in the draft budget include staff salaries and expenses, HR outsourcing costs, and insurance for liability and slander. The STBF is a trust fund, not an employer. It has no staff, but would be liable for admin charges relative to the level of activity. Further, there are significant increases shown in expenditures, especially in relation to the Guildhall, which will need to be justified. And finally, I am making a well-being request on behalf of bus-using residents. Please would the council provide a temporary bus shelter on the Guildhall forecourt. The old shelter was removed months ago for planning reasons. We have now been told that works on the forecourt will start in February, with completion expected by the end of May 2023. Meanwhile, residents have to queue in the cold, wind and rain without any shelter at all. Many bus users are elderly and some queue on the forecourt to catch buses for hospital appointments. It is unkind to force them to stand in all weathers waiting for buses that may be late or cancelled, meaning a longer wait for the next bus. Sandwich has a higher than average elderly population, many of whom will have bus passes. The need for a shelter must be addressed as a priority. We spend tens of thousands on festivals, yet we appear to be blind to the needs of the elderly and the infirm, huddled against the Guildhall walls, taking whatever shelter they can find. Please would the council open the old tourist information centre for bus users or put in place a suitable alternative, perhaps a shed or log cabin, before we lose residents to hypothermia or complications aggravated by exposure to the elements. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other topics? Because we didn't answer that. Okay. Item number 5 is the HR provision, and this is to receive and consider a HR support quotations and make recommendations. And I'll refer you to attachment number 1. And the committee is asked to consider the council's HR support, and there is a proposal here to consider 3 different companies. We've got a recommendation that the committee is asked to consider these quotations, selecting an appropriate HR service to commence from the 31st of January 2023. And I just wanted to say primarily that I'm quite knowledgeable about Peninsula, and I know the school, the technology school, uses Peninsula extensively, and they've renewed for another 5 years with them. So from my personal opinion, I think Peninsula is quite a good company, as well as being the cheapest. Councillor Fox?
Yes, we have been using Peninsula, and I have to say, as the past HR councillor, that I did not find their service very good. They took a long time to respond to any inquiries, and I could not possibly recommend using them again. They are cheaper. I think they're cheaper for a reason, and I was very unimpressed with them. Perhaps as a school has a bigger contract with them and has a bigger interest, that they respond in a more timely manner than they do to Sandwich Town Council. I've not been impressed with them at all, so I certainly can't support them. As for the other 2, I personally I'd go mid-price, and it seems a lot of money, but I liked what was provided by the second company. But having said that, I think we need to hear more. We haven't enough information to make a decision, in my view. But that's my 2 pennies worth.
Thank you very much. Thank you for those comments. Did anybody else have any other comments at all on this?
We haven't got a lot of time, have we? Is it 31st
No,
of
that's
January?
what I was going to say. That's the trouble. We can't really, we need to make a decision tonight, so.
Another point I make about Peninsula, they require 6 months notice. And if you fail to give it, you're locked into them for another year. So you have to be very aware of that. And I know that our staff were causing them that, which is why they did serve a 6 month notice. So we are able to change should we wish.
See, thank you for that. Sorry, did I see another hand go up? No. As I say, Councillor
I can only say that Peninsula do have a very good reputation. They know us, they know the setup here. There'll be a big learning curve if someone else comes in and takes over. And I can't think of any good reason why we shouldn't renew the Peninsula contract.
Yes,
I would like to support that. In a way, the report, because I saw reading the budget that we have a budget that takes account of the chief executive's wish that we change our HR provider, support provider. But I would have felt more comfortable about changing the HR support provider if I knew more about why the current provision isn't good enough. I mean, obviously Councillor Fox has given us some information. And I also found it very difficult to get through these documents because I wasn't quite sure what I was looking for and, you know, what the differences were, because the price differences are really very considerable. I worked out that with Workness it's partially an insurance premium that we would be paying. But it seems to me that we should give Peninsula, it's a 3-year contract. Yes.
That's right.
Well, I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt.
Are there any other comments at all on this?
I would like to propose a second motion that we do not go with Peninsula. It's dreadful.
So, Claire, was that a proposal that you'd put forward?
No, I'm doing the reverse. I'm saying we should continue to use Peninsula.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were saying originally, yeah.
Yeah,
I was just asking if that was your proposal to the...
that we should well, Councillor Fox is saying that we shouldn't.
No.
And I don't know which alternative, you're suggesting the Workness.
Yes, well, but again, I don't think there's enough information to really choose.
No,
I'd
it's
like
very
to-
hard.
I would like to hear exactly
Why
what
should
we
we
do.
tie for 5 years? There's a lot to work with this. You see, if you have time for 5 years.
Anyway, we can't have
3 months
separate...
notice.
We can't have separate conversations about it, so I need to have a firm proposal and seconder on how we go ahead with this. And considering, I mean, the only factor I would say is that obviously the budgets are very tight this year, so obviously money is one of the greatest aspects, I would say. So.
I would propose we can, sorry Martin, you wanted to say something?
Well, I just wanted to ask Councillor Fox through the chair if Peninsula had been told of the dissatisfaction and what their reply had been.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah,
That I don't know.
all right, I see. Yeah, so because just to update you, I did have a word with Amanda Jane about this, and she just said she didn't give any reasons, but she just said she wanted to change. And when I asked her, I said, oh, that's good, are we going to see some cost savings? She said, no, it will be much more expensive. But she didn't give any reasons why, so I can't give you any more background information to it. So, Councillor Gray?
I would propose that we continue and renew the Peninsula contract.
And I'll second that.
I think the Mayor wanted to say.
Oh, sorry.
No, I thought, no, because I originally Councillor Grass proposed it, and I was just going to say, Councillor Gray, and I just didn't say, it's all right.
Okay, yeah, and unfortunately we've got to make a decision tonight, so that's been proposed and seconded, so could I have a view of cards as to who's in favour, please? So, 4 for, 2 against, and 1 abstain. So that's passed, that we renew with Peninsula there. So. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about the timeline on that. I didn't have any control over that at all. So. Okay, then we go on to item number 6, which is the IT tender, and this is to receive and consider the IT tender documentation. Now, what we're actually doing here, if you don't mind me saying, just to give an overview on this, is we were quite lucky in that our current supplier, Highways, their managing director, called David Shaw, actually assisted us with drafting the tender documents that you've had access to and you can see tonight. And what we're actually asking tonight is whether we wish to use these tender documents. Do we consider that they are suitable to be used for tendering? And also if we are happy to go out to tender. And then obviously the Guildhall staff would take up our considerations and what we wish to do there. So hopefully you've been able to read the tender document, and do we have any questions or queries on the document first of all?
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah. I read this with interest. It seems to be. It seems to be largely about the process of tendering and the procurement process and the rights and responsibilities between the council and the companies tendering. And it's not until one gets to item 7 that one comes to what is actually being asked for, the specification. And I was quite surprised, and it's interesting that our member of the public mentioned this, that there's absolutely no mention of a website. And so it wouldn't be included in any of the offers that the companies that tender make. So I'm presuming that the specification, which is basically to support the laptops for the staff, as I understand it, and the iPads for the councillors, and to provide a cloud-based backup service, that is actually quite a small bit of business for a company, and it doesn't actually anywhere in the procurement in this document indicate that basically in order to provide support, it's probably best if the company is local to Sandwich, because iPads go wrong and they have to be dealt with. So that's my first point. But the second point is that there would have to be a separate procurement process to establish the website, because there's no mention of a website in this.
No, that's great.
So in that sense, either we're not looking for a website provider, or we are, and it'll be a separate tender.
Yeah, could I just reply to that comment first of all? Because when I read this document as well, I've got exactly what you've actually said, Councillor Anderson, is that there was no website included, and also I said about the locality that we didn't really want a company. I said the same up in Manchester. So that's the initial thing, is that's what we're saying. So if you deem those to be important, we can have those added to the specification.
Well, it may be that, there are specialist website providers, and there are some that specialise in local government. And indeed, when I've looked at the websites of other local councils in Kent, it's quite clear that there are perhaps 2 or 3 website providers who do the business for a lot of Kent town councils and parish councils, and the websites that they provide are excellent and much, well, I won't go into it, but so there is no necessity for the kind of company that we're seeking to support our hardware, which is what we're talking about, would be willing to do website provision and support. So I think, it might be better to go to one of these specialist website providers for a website.
Yeah, Councillor Fox?
Yes, currently we have 2 separate contracts, one for the website and one for this hardware as you've identified. And this is to replace the hardware side. And I absolutely concur, it should be local, but we offer the tender document locally. Because what is the point if it, as Councillor Wilson points out, so I support that. I think if you're wanting to look for a new website provider, it's a separate tender, it's a different animal. So I don't think you should combine the 2.
I agree. I think, we need specialist companies in those
exactly.
areas.
So what I'm picking up from here is really the only amendment that we might need in the specifications that they're a locally based company.
Or we instruct our staff to issue the tender document to only locally based companies.
And by local, we mean within Dover district or something
Or
like that.
we can reach to Thanet as well, can't we?
Yes.
It's a geographical.
Yeah.
Put a pin in a map.
Yes.
Draw a circle.
Presumably.
Go out to sea, not as far as France.
Councillor Pennington?
No, I think one should avoid at all costs just saying locally based. I think it has to be very clear what that involves, but that it shouldn't be too narrow.
No.
Or in which case you add in response times to the tender, so that you know that if there's something's gone wrong, you'll get a response within a certain amount of time, which might mean that they have to get here, so they have to be able to get here.
That's right, they should have, like,
Is it in there? Sorry.
called SLAs, aren't they?
Yes, it says here, 15, service level agreement, 15 minutes or better response time for remote support requests.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that doesn't mean they actually turn up at your
No.
doorstep.
No.
But if we have something if we need someone coming in,
To
perhaps
come.
we should add that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's right, so the SLAs probably need updating. Okay. So was there any more comments at all on this tender document? And if not, is anybody in favour of putting a proposal forward as to us using this document with the amendments that have been raised tonight?
I'm happy to make that proposal.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So, and that will be with the amendments that Councillor Anderson, did
Sorry,
you need those
can I-
repeating at all? Oh yeah, I will be, I just didn't know, did you need the amendments being reiterated? No, oh, that's,
Chair, sorry, can we perhaps think of a time which we think would be a fair response time if they have to travel? So
yeah, sure, indeed,
two
yeah.
two
yes,
hours?
Oh, I think that's too far.
Too much? 1 hour?
An hour.
An hour?
I mean, that would
An hour.
include Canterbury
Yeah.
and Ashford,
Yeah,
wouldn't it?
an hour.
An hour, super,
Mace
okay.
can get you in now, just
Hmm?
Mace can just get you in now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
So that's great. Well, we've had a proposal and a seconder for that. So all in favour of that going ahead with the IT tender. Thank you. It's all in favour there. Thank you very much.
But I would add that we do need a new website provider, and that we need to get that organised as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know which committee that needs to go to. Does it go to should it be on the council agenda? This one, just this one, not on the council. But could it be on the council? Oh no.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we'll move on to.
I think we could put it straight onto the next council agenda, because it's been a problem for a long time.
Indeed.
And as you recall, I did try to get it resolved back in the summer, but never moved.
Yeah.
And therefore it is something that does need to be addressed as soon as
Oh, sure.
possible.
So if it could go on next
Next-
Mondays,
It's too late for Monday, isn't it? What's
is
the
it?
date? Oh, no, it's not. No, it's
No,
not.
if we could get it on the agenda, the website provision, or getting a tender out for next Monday's council action, that would be brilliant.
I think we're trying to keep next Monday's agenda light if you can, Mr Chairman, because of staff shortages.
Indeed, yeah, that is true, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got lots.
I think I prefer to wait till January.
Well, surely,
Ah.
can't we get a
Well, there's a
decision
lot
next-
going on for next Monday.
Hmm?
I'm trying, because we haven't got a minute secretary, trying to keep the workload low.
Depends on the size of the report.
Well, the report would be that we just need to put out, devise a tender for and put it out on the website.
Yeah. We'll put that on, big fund.
Thank you. I do think we should give this priority. When I was preparing to write my co-option letter, I was looking for information on the website that wasn't there. And, you know, it is very much the public face, and I do feel that the council is rightly being being criticised very strongly.
Yeah,
You know, it's not just a sort of PR tool, it's an essential element in the running of the council, and I think we should really get it working.
Indeed. Thank you for those comments. Thank you for that. That's ideal. Item number 7 is the draft budgets. This is for financial year 2023-24. I'll read this out so that we're all aware of what we're undertaking. It's to receive the draft budget, spreadsheet and report for 2023-24 financial year based upon continued activities and new projects that the responsible financial officer has been informed about. Members should be aware that the figures given for the precept is a balancing figure at present and not a recommendation from the RFO. Members are asked to consider what amendments and research needs to be undertaken, if necessary, to the draft budget. The budget must be approved at the very latest, by the 31st of January 2023, but mid-January is the preferred date to send it to Dover District Council's Precept Department. That is for their demand deadline. So please note that the 2023-24 tax base will not be confirmed until January. Until then, any precept calculations are based on the 2022-23 tax base. And then the final item I'd just like to say is obviously we're voting on this draft budget, but in a little while we'll be going into confidential, the next item is confidential, where we need to discuss staff salaries, and obviously the budget cannot be finalised until the salaries are done. So at the moment we're discussing the draft budget.
Councillor, why can't we take item 8 first?
Sorry?
Why can't we take item 8 first?
We could do, but we'd have to turn any members of the public out. So it's just have to,
Why don't you tell us when you're finished?
yeah, we'd have to ask Christine